Still saying recording.
It looks like it's recording.
Yeah, I think you're good.
But thing.
Cool. Welcome to this week's UMIP Community Review Call. This week we have 5 UMIPs to review, 4 technical UMIPs, and our first funding proposal. So we'll take the technical proposals first and then move on to the funding proposal afterwards. So our first one, let me just get this up. Is to add Ondo ILP as a price identifier. Now, this is a resubmission that was blocked last week, waiting on responses to the comments on GitHub. Has there been any progress in this?
Nope. Still blocked, and I think we're punting this one, so.
Okay. Is it go with conditions or a no-go?
I think it'd be the same as last week, because
Okay.
like theoretically, like we could address them. I just think it's unlikely, but I think go with conditions works.
So we're really just waiting on a response from the team.
Yep.
No change from last week. Excellent, thank you. Our next one was to add the USPAC 10 June 22 price identifier. Now, there's a note at the top of this that this is identical to the previous one. The same as the previously approved USPAC 10 UMIP 140, except for the list of shares and expiration dates. Renus, I noticed you had reviewed and left quite a few comments. Do you want to speak to this one?
Yeah, mostly all the comments are more of like technical and typos for some misspellings, which can be addressed, and I think are already being addressed in some of recent commits. So the only I think fundamentally what we would need to have in the motivation section a bit more explanation of the context why there's like separate price identifier being made about the logics and how that differs and why it's necessary to have it different from previous one which already has been approved.
Are you suggesting
is the basket the same?
No, I mean the difference is only in composition of the stocks that in the index effectively. So I think that that should be just explain why at this point. And
yeah, it seems like they could just update the old UMIP, right? Like it's unused right now.
Oh yeah, well that's a good question. Yeah, because especially if there are no financial products deployed using the old one, then this previous one could be technically like updated. But long term, the more appropriate approach would be if this could be handled through ancillary data, because it's not quite scalable approach to create new price identifier every quarter or so.
Yeah, the problem is just they are using EMPs, right? So unless they want to update the contracts to accept custom ancillary data, like
yeah, that's the main
kind of
issue.
the only answer right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But I haven't. I don't recall live EMPs on these ones. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think there are any.
So we can't use auxiliary data on EMP contracts, Sean?
Yeah, you cannot set custom ancillary data on the current EMP contracts.
Cool. What I'm kind of getting out of this is that this is a go with conditionals to beef up the motivation.
No, I think it's probably I would say like the most likely outcome is it's a no-go because they don't even need to propose a new UMIP and they can just instead update the old like unused UMIP from before, since like the only difference is changing the weights.
Okay.
Rainis?
Yeah, that would be most practical approach at this point of time. Sure, for any future updates, if there are live contracts using the price identifier, that wouldn't be working. But in this particular situation, it's I think easier just to update the old UMIP.
Cool. And seems like the other document in there, the other price identifier, is just there by mistake. So I don't think we
I
need to
would guess
talk
so.
about the funding rate.
Yes.
Yeah, I left a comment on the other funding rate one, and they just said no. They basically said like ignore this. So
Cool. Okay, so that's a no-go, and our advice is to update the previous UMIP for what they need to do.
Yes.
update if there are not current financial products using this, the previous identifier.
Okay. And Sean, you'll get in touch with the team or Rainis to communicate that to them?
Yeah, we can do that.
Excellent. Our next UMIP is to upgrade the Polygon Oracle tunnel. I was expecting Nick on the call, but I don't think he's here yet. Is anybody else familiar enough to speak to the Polygon tunnel upgrade?
Yeah. Well,
So
the proposal effectively, I think, was triggered by recent issue which there was on for using new type of transactions on Polygon, and the dependencies were also updated on this one. So there's no like sure there are some technical changes in the contracts, but that they're effectively updating the new source for the updated dependency, as I understand, for handling new type of transactions that were not present when first this Polygon Oracle tunnel was deployed.
Cool. So I don't really see any outstanding comments. Are we good to go with that one?
Yeah, I don't
Yep.
see any issues, and this looks like reviewed.
Excellent. Good. The final technical UMIP is the across V2 UMIP, which is submitted by Matt.
so is this one being discussed this week? Because it's marked as draft and work in progress.
Yeah, I
Okay.
also understood there are some sections still to be filled in, so I was not fully like reviewing at this stage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see at the bottom. Sorry, I put it in just because it was up there as a pull request. But yes, so we push this to next week, and it shouldn't really have gone in anyway. People
think
good
so.
with that?
I haven't talked to Matt about this, but have you, Vari? Do you
No, I
know if
haven't
his
spoken to
intention
him.
was to get it in this week?
No, I haven't spoken to him about it.
Okay.
I just saw it in the repo and put it in for review. Okay, well, that's all the technical UMIPs. We've now got our first funding request proposal, which is from the Superhuman DAO. So the request is for 85,000 UMA to be sent to the Gnosis safe on Polygon. This would come from the governor contract in the UMA DAO. John, would you be able to comment on whether such transaction is doable to bridge from the governor contract into a Polygon safe?
I would say probably. I don't see any reason why not. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but I think that you could pretty much do any kind of transaction you'd like. So if we were sending UMA over a bridge, I think that we could initiate the transactions to send it over the bridge. And then I'm assuming that you can send it to a particular address on the other side of the bridge. So I'm not 100% on this, but I would say probably.
But just to clarify, the Gnosis safe address that's on Ethereum mainnet, that's completely different owners, and just coincident that it's has the same address. There's no relation to on this Polygon deployment, right?
The Gnosis safe on mainnet is a child of the Polygon safe. It is fully controlled by the safe on Polygon.
Okay, I see.
Seems like it would. I mean, we don't have standards for this, but I think it would be best if like UMA governance transactions were kept as simple as possible. I think like trying to interact with like bridges and stuff like that, and, like send to other chains, like just instinctually, it seems like it'd be better practice if like we just restricted things to only like funding on mainnet. So like if that is like a viable like Superhuman DAO controlled address to send to, like I think it would be better. It'd be simpler. I think like there's, you know, we want to reduce kind of the functionality of these transactions to make them like simple for people to review, and also I don't know, there's security concerns the more like things you interact with and things that you do. So I think it'd be better if we could just like send to an address on mainnet. It's kind of my thought.
Yeah, because in that case it would be more like atomical, would not have any like dependencies on claiming on the other side, or dependencies on somebody to actually breach that over, right?
Yeah.
And so then if we send it to the Gnosis safe on mainnet, if it's controlled by the Gnosis safe on Polygon, the superhumans should be able to then bridge it themselves, right? Okay.
Theoretically.
Are they using UMA to vote as well?
No. Their voting is done by NFTs.
Oh, no, I
No, it
mean
means
like UMA, like within UMA's system to get voting
Oh,
rewards.
sorry. The intention is the actual control over the mainnet safe has only been established in the last few days. And all they have done so far is transfer tokens and ETH. They haven't done anything complex like bridge or swap.
Okay, because it would be interesting if they intended to vote with their UMA, which seems reasonable. To just actually have the UMA on mainnet for starters. If they have full control over it, then they could transfer it over to Polygon as needed to distribute to people and so on. So if that's viable, that might save them some time and effort too.
That seems like a sensible approach.
I'm sure this is in the proposal, and I'm guessing the reason is just gas costs, but like UMA has like zero utility on Polygon. Like as an UMA DAO, like we want basically all of the UMA to stay on mainnet. Like that's kind of in the UMA best interest to have kind of the maximum like voting float possible on mainnet.
Mhm.
So I also think it'd be like best practice to not like encourage or to not necessarily support moving like large amounts of UMA tokens off of mainnet.
Okay. So is that a recommendation to change to mainnet safe?
I think at least for the governor transaction, yeah.
Cool. The other question is whether the safe that we're sending to is sufficiently secure to send funds to. I had a bit of a look at their setup and I have concerns around this. The safe, the Polygon safe, and actually also the mainnet safe is fully controlled through SafeSnap using the Reality ETH module, using NFTs to vote, which are minted through the Galaxy protocol. We know that there are vulnerabilities in the escalation games Reality ETH module. The superhumans are aware of these and they've taken mitigating action. Part of that mitigating action is that the proposal process is restricted. So that obviously has a level of, it's a level of centralization, which is undesirable. But it's unavoidable at the minute, given the vulnerabilities of realities. Although they are working with UMA to initiate an alternative security layer through a Zodiac module, which John is developing. So in the longer term, that should be a more permanent solution. I do also have concerns over the level of dependence this has on an external protocol for treasury access. It's fully controlled through NFTs minted through the Galaxy Eco protocol, which is primarily used for credentialing, where security is a less concern. And the vulnerability of this was highlighted on the 18th of March when Galaxy upgraded their contracts, which necessitated the reissue of all governance NFTs. Following that upgrade, one DAO member was unable to vote. It's now been resolved, but it's a notable vulnerability. It also interrupted the minting of new NFTs to new recruits. And also the minting of NFTs is a centralized process, and the admin access to minting is under the full control of the Galaxy protocol. There is changes, when tier changes occur as part of the governance process to adjust the amount of voting weight that a member has, it relies on a trust-based process where the members have to return their NFT in order to exchange it for the new tier. And if the member doesn't return it, their wallet is ban listed from voting, disenfranchising them. I'm quite concerned around the security of this. How do other people feel about this?
So I'm not sure I really fully understand how like the Galaxy NFT voting system works. Like, is that something that's like the specific NFT addresses are like whitelisted in Snapshot or something?
No. The admin addresses for minting are whitelisted on Galaxy. Any whitelisted address can then mint an NFT. And there are 3 different types of NFTs: a basic tier, a medium tier, and a higher tier.
Yeah, but then so Snapshot just like refers to NFT creators, and then like any NFTs they mint automatically have governance permissions, or are there like restrictions from like the person that owns like the Snapshot space? They also have like they can choose, to allow like certain NFTs or not, or they have to choose to allow like governance power to certain NFTs?
It's not happening in Snapshot, it's happening in Galaxy, where you basically say that NFT is invalid. So you can kind of invalidate it through Galaxy.
And a Galaxy admin or like the Galaxy team has to do that.
The Galaxy team has to authorize somebody to do it.
So could the Galaxy team just mint as many NFTs as they want, automatically get governance power, and then vote in superhuman proposals like without restriction?
Yes.
Well, if that's true, that doesn't seem great. Seems just like, yeah, just like an obvious rug pull vector there.
Yeah, it seems like there's some kind of hard to reason about centralization risks there too, where it might be good to have like a secondary method of some multi-sig with a really high threshold. Because another risk is like not just a rug pull, but if there's if like the Galaxy system is just like down for some reason, it's not working like you expect, to just have a way to like bootstrap and like add a new module. And I think that would actually be helpful too with the Zodiac module if they were able to move from their reality implementation to using the Zodiac module. I would still recommend for a period to have some kind of a fallback multi-sig system where you have this high threshold, so you're trying to like minimize trust as much as possible, and then you can eventually switch it off. But it feels risky to like not have anything yet. I think we're probably a few months out, at least for the Zodiac module, where I would recommend people switch it off to be fully, trust minimized and as decentralized as possible. I do think that when they make that switch too, then that should help with the risks with Galaxy, that you could include in the rules that like if such and such happened with Galaxy, to like disregard whatever transactions were proposed and like dispute them and so on. But that's kind of a later thing. But I guess that's my recommendation, to just add like a high threshold multi-sig as a backup.
Obviously, there are
Is
high
Galaxy
dangers
actually
around multi-sigs as well, though, which we
Yeah,
don't
but
really
I
want
don't
to
think
encourage.
that it adds more trust assumptions than are already there. I think you already have these trust assumptions, and probably like to a greater extent. And so like whoever the admins are that are able to mint NFTs, presumably you have to trust them, and then you have to trust the NFT system. And so if you already have that, you might as well, using the same trust assumptions, add just like a backup, and then over time get rid of those trust assumptions by moving to a Zodiac module. And then if everything seems fine sometime later, just like switch off any multi-sig control and it's only the Zodiac module.
So is Galaxy actually on-chain voting? Like Galaxy voting controls the multi-sig, or no?
There is no
Or is
multi-sig.
so there's just a superhuman treasury that's controlled by like Galaxy voting on-chain.
Yes. Galaxy voting through Snapshot and then Reality ETH is the oracle that conveys it to on-chain.
Gotcha.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think there are quite serious risks around Galaxy.
This is the
We feel
existing
that they're
governance
safe.
process they use, though, right? Why was this choice made? Like, I'm sure that some of these conversations were made, like when the treasury was being stood up by the superhumans, right? Are there any justifications there, or like previous discussions that have been had?
The original proposal was to mint the NFTs through ENS. However, ENS at that time did not have Polygon support. And Galaxy did have Polygon support. and seemed to imply that it was suitable for governance. And I think that the contract upgrade on the 18th of March has really highlighted some of the concerns that were perhaps there in the background but weren't as obvious.
And I think part of the reasoning is to make it easier to like mint and distribute these NFTs, right? Because they
That's
want,
correct.
yeah.
Mainnet NFTs are quite expensive to mint. So this is a very cost-effective way of minting NFTs for governance, to do it through Polygon. Galaxy has a number of protocols on it, but it does tend to be used for credentialing, where security isn't so much of a concern. But yeah, I mean, there are alternatives that are around, and there's a range of them. And Gnosis themselves are also talking about NFT controlled safes. I mean, do people feel this is sufficiently secure, a sufficiently secure wallet to fund at this level?
I think, oh, go ahead, Sean.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's active right now, right? Like it's kind of mid-flight on it. I think that, you know, adding a multi-sig backup counterintuitively actually reduces your trust assumptions because you have a way to do it outside of the NFT system, and you have a way to like override the NFT system if it's not looking good. And I think that there's a path here using the Zodiac module to just solve it all within a single module too, and have like a better resolution process, because outside of Galaxy you don't really have a final resolution process in reality.eth either, so there's like some issues there. But I don't know if you necessarily need to like get to that final state before the wallet can receive more fundings. It's already received some. I would highly recommend to them that they have a high threshold multi-sig backup to kind of deal with these things. And I would argue it doesn't increase trust assumptions.
Do we want to start introducing bad practices here? I mean, this was not funded. The original wallet was not funded by the UMA DAO. It was funded by the members of the superhumans who decided that this was sufficiently secure to transfer from the temporary multi-sig into this.
I think so I guess I view it as like this is a grant that's going to a group that's doing good work. I think that if we were giving future grants to like a project that's starting up or something too, there's only so much management we can do of like how they're going to handle their internal funds, how they're going to handle their treasury, and so on. I think that the threshold gets higher the larger the amount of funding is. And you know, I do think like it's just like balancing those concerns against the value that we see of providing the funding through the grant. And I think that there's a way to kind of, I don't know, like find a way to bridge over. I also wonder like how urgent it is, since there is money in the superhuman treasury right now, where are there concerns about just being able to operate if this took a little while longer and like they wanted to wait until the Zodiac module was ready? Or like, you know, how that interferes with their plans or affects their plans. And I also don't want to like create a dependency on just like, oh, I need to finish, like make sure that everything is production ready on the Zodiac module, and then like I'm a bottleneck on it. So that's why I was thinking about like the high threshold multi-sig is just a backup to the worst case scenarios and then get rid of it eventually.
I think there are also alternatives to the Zodiac module that they could look at as interim measures. There are NFTs that are not as dependent on an external protocol.
Yeah.
think it'd be. I mean, I'd like to see more discussion about this. I know you posted your concerns on Discourse, Vari, but I don't think there's been a lot of like Superman response, especially from the people that like set up that initial like governance structure, right? Yeah, I'd like to see like what their answer is. Like, and I think John, your point around like we can't like fully audit or like control how people like handle funds once we like send them out. I think that's like a good one. But I do agree like there should be some audit of that. Like I don't think we would ever send like $1 million in UMA to just like a random EOA. Right. Um yeah. So I guess my answer is I think we just like need more discussion because I honestly don't understand like fully understand all the security concerns. Like the way you've described it, Vari, doesn't sound great. Yeah. I but I'm sure like Galaxy has an answer for this too, because it seems like kind of the first thing that anybody that integrated with them would kind of ask, right?
I don't think people are using it for such high stake stuff. I think, you know, it's lower stake stuff that is generally being used with Galaxy NFTs. Can I suggest that we put this as a goal with conditionals pending response by the Supreme DAO?
So I guess the other thing we haven't really talked about is like what we're actually deciding here.
We are deciding whether or not this address is safe enough to send funds to.
Yeah, I agree, but like that's not the only thing that goes into like whether this should be voted on or not, right?
What other aspects should there be?
Like has there been ample discussion or like justification of like the amount of funding that's being requested? Like that's not something we've talked about at all on this call, but is kind of like fundamental to this proposal, right?
The discourse is there for people to discuss it in.
Was
Yes.
there an additional step? I forget what the process is for a funding proposal. Is there then like a snapshot vote on this
Yes.
prior to proposing it? Okay, so we're not saying like go to like propose it to the governor. We're talking about whether to advance it to a
Snapshot.
vote.
Yes.
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's like necessarily a risk of going to a snapshot vote, since if people are concerned about it, then it might get voted down. I just, you know, we can see if like, I guess we're establishing the culture right now of, do we want to advance things that may or may not pass, or are we trying to reach soft consensus before even going to the snapshot vote? I could see that going either way. And maybe the snapshot vote is useful as just like taking the temperature of a lot of different people and forcing people to like think about it if they normally aren't looking at discourse.
I think the thing that we should be doing is checking whether or not it is at a technical level, it is feasible to actually make the transaction that's requested, and whether the recipient of the funds is suitably safe and secure for us to fund before we go to a snapshot vote.
So,
do you feel that that should happen after a snapshot vote?
So the second one isn't even really for us to decide, right? Like we can make recommendations and provide feedback and raise concerns, but like, you know, somebody could propose that we just fund like a random address and pay them $1 million, and like, yeah, we could put that up for a snapshot vote, like, but like feasibility, yes, like we need to decide that because I'm assuming we would be the ones to actually write like the transactions that are eventually actually voted on by the UMIP. But I think, yeah, we should discuss like the concerns you've raised more, Vari. I think it's almost like up to the superhumans when they decide like they want like they feel ready for a snapshot vote. Because if there's still like a lot of unanswered concerns, then I would assume like there'd be concern around them actually passing the snapshot vote when it's actually like raised.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, this should go forward to snapshot, assuming it passes in discourse. With the condition that it's changed to the mainnet safe.
I think maybe the role of this call, like this technical review, is to provide advice and give feedback, and it's like a good opportunity to discuss it. But I'm not sure if we're making go or no go recommendations out of this call. I think that for funding decisions, I think that we're just kind of discussing. We compile our notes, and then the process is kind of different. Like it's like a separate flow. Which I think there would be more discussion on discourse, and I think we've like raised some technical concerns, and we can just kind of compile those. So I wouldn't call it a go no go. I think it would be just like here's a open text box, and here's our feedback, kind of thing.
Yeah, agreed. Like I think even the decision to move this forward to a snapshot vote is like something people could discuss on discourse, and like yeah, I don't want the outcome of this call to be like, yes, this is being voted on in snapshot this week.
Okay.
Because I think there's still a lot of discussion to be had, right?
I think so. The proposal closes in 3 days, at which point it would move to snapshot.
Also don't even know if, like, I know we're close, but like we're still setting up some like delegated voting strategies on our snapshot page, right? So like it's unclear. I don't think it's a for sure thing that we would actually be able to perform a snapshot vote in the next 3 days.
Okay.
Is there an option where like if the proposer wants to push back the snapshot vote and say like we need more discussion on it, is the timeline where things advance to snapshot just basically to like keep the process moving so things aren't languishing, but you have the option to push it back if you want to try to do some more consensus building?
The proposer can withdraw.
Okay, and then it would be like a re-proposal? Okay.
Can you just leave the proposal up for discussion and not actually withdraw it and delay the snapshot vote as the proposer?
No, because of how discourse works. Once a vote is set in motion, it is done. So you could clone it.
Yeah, but like, I mean, like they could indicate, like the proposer could indicate that, yes, we have like this discourse poll open, but doesn't necessarily mean we want to like move it forward to snapshot now.
We haven't really planned for that. Perhaps it's something that we should introduce into the system.
Yeah, it seems like it. Like, I don't know. It seems to me that this poll was either opened a little prematurely or, feedback has been a little slow. And yeah, I think both things, like, it's up to the proposer, right? And I guess us in terms of like feasibility, but like if I was the proposer, like I would want to make sure like that we kind of have soft consensus before moving it forward to snapshot. And I don't think there's been enough discussion to like actually form that soft consensus.
Cool. Okay, I think, that was like the first funding proposal that we've had. And this is a new process. So this is all really good feedback into the process that we should follow.
Yeah, this is really cool and great work on setting all this up, Barry.
And it's amazing to get our first funding proposal in.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Is there any other issues that people would like to raise?
Nope.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks to you
Good
all for
one.
turning up. Bye.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.